Welcome back, everyone, where we're continuing our conversation tonight on building a culture of peace. And I should remind you that this is a call-in show. So if you have any questions for our experts tonight, I encourage you to call the number that you see on your screen. And we left our conversation speaking about what individuals can do to kind of embrace this idea of building a culture of peace and take steps, even if they are small, to actually create this in their communities. And do you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, I think I'll just go back to the values we were talking about, because they're very important.
Okay.
They're very important in what one should do.
Okay.
Because it's the choice of values. The values we pick up help us to make the right decision. So you have to have some reflection on what are those core values which drive you, for which you feel passionate.
Yes.
And once you know them, then you are able to then narrow your field. I'm just thinking about, if you don't pick up the right value, you can get into a wrong sphere also. So I would say, there are so many things. And I'm just looking in your studio here, you got volunteers working here. I mean, that's another way to, you can start on your transformation. Yeah. But the one very good one is the service. Service. Okay. And
what do you mean by that? Service in what way?
Selfless service.
Selfless service.
Selfless service.
Volunteers.
Volunteerism.
Okay.
And you say that's how I started.
Yes.
So just I am sorry to get back to myself.
No, but that's important because I do want to learn. I mean, the two of you have over 70 years of experience. I'm sure you have a lesson or two that you want to share with us on what you see has worked for you in terms of this building.
In my case, for example, what stands out for me is we were talking about even working as a diplomat. Even working as a diplomat in London. Yeah. I started my first service work in London because something was telling me I was too much wrapped up in my own self, in my own world. I'd get out from there and provide something, do something for the community. And there I had this opportunity. One was to do service for elderly, visit seniors' home. Okay. And second was the soup kitchens. Okay. And now the joy you get from doing that, and I've been now doing it for 30 years now, that sort of a thing. You are nobody there, you go there, you're totally anonymous, and but the joy you get, and I'm sure all your volunteers who work here, they know what I'm talking about. Yes. That joy is immense, and in that process you get to meet people, and you build the relationships, and that's peace is all culture of peace is about.
I think some people think that you need to do big things, that there's so many things that need to be fixed, or that there's a problem. You need to go and do big things. But sometimes we undervalue the power of those small but important things that you're talking about right now, those small things in how you approach people. And you began to talk about that with your kind of your language and the neuro-linguistic programming. It's in the small actions that people sometimes feel that they are not doing enough, whereas I would say you're doing a lot in building that culture.
I'll give you some examples during the Cold War.
And for people who don't remember who the Cold War was.
This was during the 70s and 60s and 80s, when countries said, well, especially the West said, it's either better to be dead than red. Right. And no doubt there was a symmetrical view the other way around. Right. Anyway, I tried to find a way how to create friendship between the East and the West, to build bridges. And one of the ways I did was to invite people to my living room in the 80s. And I had 17 sessions on Saturday. Yeah. It was a public session. I brought in people from the Soviet embassy on different themes. And this was a good way to exchange and to learn about the stranger, so they become friends. And after that, I led tour groups to the Soviet Union. Yeah. And this was a good way to promote intercultural relations. And I know other friends during the Cold War, one of them was a woodworker, and he made ladles. wooden ladles.
Oh, ladles, like
Yeah,
soup
and,
ladles, okay.
and send them out to the Pope, send them out to the Prime Minister, and at various meetings, he would come out with a paper bag and give a ladle. He says, this is an extension of my love to you. He's of a Doukhobor background, but this is what he did, an elder guy. And this is a simple little gesture, but important, a sort of bridge building. So others, you know, they write letters, writing books, websites. I mean, I have a website and blog, and I continue to write things on peace and conscience, and not only on Doukhobors, but other groups.
Because I think it's very easy, as I said earlier, to lose hope, to feel that it's too overwhelming, and that even the smallest action is not going to serve for anything. And I want to reiterate kind of the importance of these small acts that do big things, like the cliche of dropping a pebble in the water and just watching those ripples go out. And I'm sure in your many years, you've had cause to lose hope, perhaps, and to lose faith in the nature of humanity. But yet here you are, you're 60 years later, 10 years later, working in peace, and you still keep going. And so what is it that keeps you going? What is it that makes you want to continue to contribute to this culture that we're building of peace?
Well, if we don't, who will? And are we going to wait until the atomic bomb comes and destroys the civilization, and there was no future for our children? So this is an opportunity for each of us to do something for our children, our grandchildren, and the future generations by simply standing up and saying something about peace, or supporting it, or doing our unique thing. It may be a sculpture, creating a peace event or something. Or holding a display at the public library. Why not?
Yeah, and I think, to change the life of one person is just as important and just as valuable as trying to solve the bigger problems. It reminds me actually of a story. I think it's a fable of the monk who was inside of a room filled with flies, and his disciple was there, and the monk is, with his chopsticks or with his hand trying to grab those flies, and the disciple is saying to him, well, why bother? Why bother with the flies? There's so many of them. You're gonna save them all. They're all gonna die in this room. And when he grabbed one fly, he held it in his hands, and he said, well, it matters to this one fly that it can escape. So that importance of not forgetting that changing the life of one person is also terribly important as well.
We could make a difference.
We can make a difference. I mean, he's only one person, but Gandhi was one person. He didn't start out as being what he has become. He was just one individual who cared about an issue. So yeah. Did you want to add to that as well, Bill?
Yeah, the Gandhi is just a fantastic leader. The beauty of Gandhi is that he practices what he preaches. And if you read his biography, you see, his transformation from a barrister, who was trained in England. He goes from India to England, and then he decides that he wants to serve the poorest of the poor in his own homeland. He comes back, and it's not, that transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it's a life journey there. And from all that suited, booted, Western educated barrister, he adorns the lion cloth, because that's the symbol of the poorest of the poor in India, and then wearing that, he champions their cause, fighting the British rule, and gets the independence without shedding any blood. In any war. At that time, at the same time, there's a Second World War is going on in the European theater, where 60 million people are killed because they have adopted a different approach. And there's this man there who is fighting for the rights, human rights of the 400 million people in India. He adopts this non-violence as the way of gaining independence, and he's able to do that. But if you look at his life, it's gradual. There's a self-discipline. There's a compassion for the poor, and not only just compassion, but identifying himself with the poorest of the poor. So, and there are people like Gandhi. For me, Gandhi, Tolstoy, Dr. King, these are the people who have inspired me, because like Gandhi, I mentioned about, he talks about God is truth, truth is God, and then he says both God and truth can only be achieved through nonviolence. And Leo Tolstoy, he said, kingdom of the God is within you.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, so they're saying God is all within. We don't have to look for God elsewhere.
Yes.
There's a God in you, me, everyone. Or we are talking about Dr. King. He said content of someone's character is not judged by the color of his skin,
but the content of his
character.
Yeah.
So these are very profound words, and the lives they lead, I would suggest to anyone, young and old, to read their biographies.
Yes, I think there's something that's understated and maybe undervalued in what, especially because I've read the Gandhi biography and the Nelson Mandela's, of course, of the world, and the spiritual practice of Gandhi and his inner transformation and the work that he did on himself as an individual to become an individual who is at peace with his personal demons. That's something that, maybe history forgets in light of all the bigger actions that he took. But really his journey, what fascinates me especially, is this inner journey that he took, and to try and connect with that peace within himself.
In a real sense, we are all part of the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
We are gods, in a sense.
Yeah.
And therefore, we need to respect the sacredness of every person.
Yeah. It's not an easy concept
for many. It's not an easy
You
concept.
know, especially when you're angry and when you feel that you're justified and when you feel that that this is it's your right to feel angry and to then act in retribution, and that's when you lose sight. No matter what you believe, that what is sitting in front of you, that person is as sacred as you are, and their life is as sacred as your own.
You have to practice.
It's a practice.
Yeah,
it's a daily, moment by moment practice sometimes.
Yeah. It doesn't come easy. You have to work on it.
Yes.
And there's no formula for that. There are a couple of reminders, like sometimes you're looking for right solution.
The right solution.
The right solution. And if you're ever, you go back to your conscience, and your conscience is going to tell you, and just wait for 10, 15 minutes, your conscience is going to tell you you're doing, and if your conscience says, no, don't do it, don't do it. Yeah. Sometimes it's not possible, but if you could delay that action for another 10 minutes, yes, you will find the right answer. Whether, what is dictating that? Is that your ego, or is that your love for the other, or is that selfless service? And you will get some answer from your conscience. Follow your conscience.
Follow your conscience.
Yeah.
And before acting, just take a deep breath, maybe, before you jump into action. Did you want to add to that one?
No, I was just going to say that one of the, I think, values that we have is cooperation. We have to work on these things together. And one of my friends, he was looking around for cooperative games in Ottawa way back 40, 30 years ago. And he couldn't find any games that were cooperative. They're always, you kill the other person or you knock them off.
It's true, actually.
And so he developed games. This was in Perth, Ontario. He developed a game for his children. He had two girls. And neighbors asked, well, why don't you develop some for us? And as a result, he developed a cottage industry, which is continuing on to the present day. It's become a, $750,000 program. And so the idea is that we all win. This is the important part. And this is hard for many people to believe, instead of using the competition that we often, you try to knock somebody out of the game. But you don't knock somebody out of the game. You work together with them, so that if you're climbing a mountain, you help each other how to climb the mountain. If you're doing any activity, you do the same thing. Either we all win or we all lose.
Right.
And this is the big thing. And I think this is something we need to take to heart in our world today. It's no longer a period of regime change.
Yeah.
I think this is wrong. And this is something we have to say no to this. We have no right to poke our nose into somebody else's business abroad.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, we have to have integrity.
Yes, of course, of course.
And Moni, you have been doing, you have done a lot of work. You have, you're a peace walker yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you and Alberto have walked 5,000 kilometers from Rome to Jerusalem. You know, for 1 year.
Yeah.
That's there's something there in that story also.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's peace. Like for me, is everybody has the thing that they love the most, that they're most passionate about. For me, it is peace. And I started my walk for peace personally after 9/11, because after 9/11 happened, I thought, well, I want to do something, and I didn't know. I don't know the answers to the world's problems. I don't know what is, you know, what will work, what will not. But I thought, well, you know what? If I start walking, I'm just going to start walking. And walking, you know, I believe that it begins within. Peace begins within. But I'll tell you a funny thing that happened. You know, although I believed very much, and I still do, that it begins within, my big dream was that I would, you know, arrive in the big city, and Jerusalem was my destination. We would have like a big peace march. It would be all the faiths, all the religions, everybody united in one. And, you know, the more I kept walking, the more that I realized that how can I bring something to the world that I personally don't have? And my own personal ideas of what peace means really changed a lot during that walk, because I'm very action oriented, and I think many people are action oriented. They want to jump to do something to fix the problem, to just go ahead and do it without necessarily looking inwards. Because I've seen that there are people who are very calm and at peace in the most conflictive of situations. And then there are individuals who are torn and at war within themselves in the most peaceful situations. And so that really made me reflect on what peace means for me especially, and that it's an inside job. It's an inside job. How can you bring something to the world that you yourself don't have? You know, and I'm sure with your experiences, it's something that you must reflect on as well. The importance of doing the inner work, which is what Gandhi also talked about as well, a great deal.
And Tolstoy, at the end of 1899, there was an international peace gathering.
Yes.
And he essentially went to it and he says, you have to start from within.
Yes.
That's how it will change
Yes.
the world. We have to have the intention of creating peace. And if you don't have that, you can't really make much progress.
Yes. And I would agree to say that Gandhi pretty much also summarized that.
And Gandhi and there are other leaders in India, other teachers in India, is the same sort of a concept that the God is within you, as you were mentioning, and then you have to sort of your challenge in your life is to find that God, find that divinity in you, you know, and that you do that through these various acts. Service being one of those, for example, and love another one. The 5 values, you know, there's a paradigm I learned from my spiritual mentor.
I hold on to that, because I do have to go to break right now, so we'll pick this conversation up as soon as we come back from break. Please stay tuned. We'll continue our conversation on building a culture of peace.